Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
I apologize in advance if I am out of line here.
Brace yourselves, boys. We're going in.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you are doing?
I can't believe you.
I'm not reading, I'm just looking at the picture. Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
Welcome, everybody, to another great week here of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I am your host, Matthew Long. Awesome week ahead of us. We are down to 3 meaningful football games left in this football year, which will reignite again when it starts over in February. And then you got your trade deadline, March 13th or 14th. Free agency, 13th or 14th. So, draft is in April. I think it was April 25th, 20-something. Is that the 26th? Is that what it is? I'll look it up. I don't know. Well, when we get closer to it, you'll know. It's not really that important that you know the dates on that. What is important this weekend is the 93rd annual, the 2019 East-West Shrine Game. 93 years. I will be at it again. So that will air. The game will air live on NFL Network at 3 p.m. Eastern Time from Tropicana Field in St. Pete, sunny Tampa Bay, Florida. It doesn't matter if it's sunny or rainy, it's inside, which is one of the beauty of domes. They're not going to have trouble with the ring because it's football. I hope not. I don't think somebody would punt it that high. It'd be interesting to see if they can. I will definitely bring that up to the kickers. I would like to see if they can hit the ring with a football. For no reason particularly. They're 19, 20-year-old young kids wanting to get into pro sports. I'm sure that's something that's a legitimate dumb thing that they could do that they're not going to get too in trouble for. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad first step to get them off on, but oh well. Don't look at me like that. All right. We will have a guest here in this first hour. Mark H. Maxwell. He is entertainment attorney and professor. Will join us here in 25 minutes or so. He has a new book coming out actually. And Kevin read the whole thing. So we'll hear a little bit about that. I got a few questions for him. I think these are great kind of guests. Again, I know you tune in Sports Talk Sports. We can talk about X's and O's till we're blue in the face, give our opinions on calls and rules and the politics of sports all we want. But guests like this are really what help make this the cold hard truth on sports. Whereas somebody that's in the entertainment industry, because you can't forget, sports is entertainment. So it's a merger of two different things. Because at the end of the day, it's for entertainment. So you can't discount that at all. So great guests coming up here shortly. Kyler Murray has decided he has declared for the NFL draft. So I will kind of break that down. We talked a little bit about it. The last couple of weeks, that the pros and cons. I'm very pro him going football. Baseball makes the most sense once he's eligible for arbitration, which is between 3 to 6 years in. It doesn't matter where he starts. He will start in the minor leagues. From what I've understood now, I mean, this declaring for the draft has created quite a bit of leverage for him. And I've heard some numbers, $10 to $15 million floated out there, where the A's would have to be willing to commit that kind of money to him to pull him away from football. And what kind of a vanity move would that be for Major League Baseball to say, we pulled the Heisman Trophy winner away from the sport of football? I think that's something that baseball will be able to boast about and most likely will. So let me introduce my co-host. He's the author of the P.K. Frazier novel series. He's also editor for our golf section of the site, as well as one of our top football contributors, Mr. Kevin Crest. How are you doing this evening, Kevin?
I'm doing well, and I think the Kyler Murray story is a great one to open the night because, Scott Boras is his agent. And who knows what Scott Boras has up his sleeves. I mean, as many of you know, that Scott Boras is one of the most influential agents in sports. We had one of his, I guess, contemporaries on last year, Lee Steinberg, 2 years ago. Lee Steinberg, and Lee Steinberg takes a whole different approach to agents, being an agent, than Scott Boras does. Scott Boras is basically scorched earth kind of guy, and we'll see what he does here because, he's slotted. And Major League Baseball has a slotting mechanism for, wherever you're taking in the draft, that's what you get, in terms of bonus and et cetera. And we'll see if they try to rewrite that book. But if I'm not mistaken, that's all collectively bargained. I'm not sure Kyler Murray can improve his situation with the Oakland A's because of the collective bargaining agreement, which stipulates how much these guys get, depending on whether they're taking the draft. So this will be a very interesting situation. You and I talked last week. We disagreed, I think. I think Kyler Murray's too small to play quarterback in the NFL. He's 4 inches shorter than Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes looks. If you think Mahomes looks small out there, put Kyler Murray out there in an NFL offense. I mean, he's not a big guy. I mean, I'm 5'8.5", maybe. I would probably be listed at 5'10" in a press guide if I was playing sports. And I can tell you, I don't think that guy's any bigger than I am. But that cat's not a big guy. And I know he had a great season at Oklahoma, Big 12 defenses, the whole 9 yards. But man, if I'm an NFL GM, I'm not sure about this kid. I mean, they're banking on him going in the first round, but I'm not sure. I mean, Tim Tebow was a big guy. He's a big guy. He plays both sports. He's a big guy. Kyler Murray, Robert Griffin III was 6'2", and he got broken in half. Basically got broken in half in the NFL. Johnny Manziel couldn't make it. I don't know. I'm not sold on Kyler Murray as a quarterback in the NFL. I'm just not sold on it. So we'll see what GMs think. He's declared for the draft. I wish him well. If he does get taken in the first round of the draft, he almost has to go to the NFL because he's going to get guaranteed $15 million, which is 4 times what he's getting from baseball. And he has to toil in the minor leagues Mike Trout was in the minor leagues for a couple of years, and Mike Trout's as good as they come. I mean, you don't go straight to the majors unless you're a big-armed left-handed pitcher that come out of college that they can just slot right in the major leagues. But that's rare. So we'll see. I think it's an interesting story. We'll be all of the pundits, our colleagues, Matthew will be comping on this for the next 3 months, right? It'll be the story heading into the draft on, where he's taken and the combine. I think probably the biggest event on the NFL Network will be during the combine when they actually measure it, right? There's going to be like 800 people looking at the tape measure to see how tall he is. I think it's going to be fascinating. It'll be great. It'll be great theater for us people who have nothing better to do than to watch stupid sports stuff like that. But we'll see. I don't know how tall he is. Nobody does. Nobody knows how tall he is until we get to the combine and they measure him up. But I like the kid. I think he's a great athlete. But you look at Mahomes. Everybody's going, "Oh well, Mahomes is a big kid." And Russell Wilson is a big kid. These guys are 6'1", 6'2". They're not. And Kyler Murray's small. He just is. You can see it. He's tiny by NFL standards. So, even Drew Brees probably has 2 or 3 inches on this kid. And Brees is thicker. Brees is a big guy. So we'll see. I'm skeptical. I think he should take his $4.6 million and go play baseball. But he'll probably take his $15 million, turn into another Johnny Manziel or Tim Tebow. That is if he doesn't want to play another position. Now he could turn into a Khalil Hill, the Chiefs running back. I mean, Murray's fast. I mean, the guy's got world-class speed. He could play in the NFL at wide receiver, slot back. I mean, he's like an Edelman with speed. I mean, the kid could do great things in the NFL. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it at quarterback. What do you think?
Seeing him play, he's clearly entertaining to watch. He is more professional, more put together than Johnny Manziel. He has a better arm than Johnny Manziel. He has more speed, more quickness, more of the athleticism than you'd want with Johnny Manziel. He's shorter than Johnny Manziel, too. Not weight-wise, he's about pretty similar weight-wise, actually. But he is not
Probably.
by far if you're scouting for a quarterback for the NFL, he by far is not what you're looking for as the prototypical NFL quarterback. 6'3.5", hands that are 9.5 to 10-inch hands. A guy that has experience under center. Again, so everything that is kind of what is prototypical that you look for a quarterback in the NFL, he is not. He is not. So does that mean that he won't go in the first round? I have people that I've talked to, scouts that are dead set that he's a second or third round pick. I've talked to scouts and front office staff, and I want to talk to some more this week at the Shrine Game practices. If I think he's a top 15 pick. So it's tough to say. I think
quarterbacks always move up, right?
Yeah,
quarterbacks always move up.
Generally, they do, unless something.
And this is not
something big comes out.
And this
especially
is not
in a
deep
light
quarterback draft.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So
we had five first round picks last year. There are not 5 first round quarterbacks in the draft this year, right? There just aren't. I mean, Haskins will go high. The kid from Oregon's going back to school, so he probably would have been the top quarterback pick, and he's going back to school. You just don't have him. So listen.
The kid from Duke. There's probably legitimately guys that are. There's 3 or 4 guys that are probably going to be in this draft at quarterback that are first round reaches. I don't necessarily think any of them are really what you're looking for at quarterback in the first round. Next year is going to be a much better draft for quarterbacks. But people's need now is people's need now. So it's going to be interesting the way that kind of they filter out here.
Well, Oakland has 3 first-round draft picks. The kid was already signed by the Oakland A's. Oakland's AAA team, the A's AAA ball club, minor league team, is in Las Vegas. So if you're looking for a two-sport star like Deion Sanders or Brian Jordan or, Bo Jackson, I mean, those are the 3 that come to mind over the last, many, many years, last 30 years. Okay, Oakland could gamble on him because they've got 3 first-round picks. They could take him at, 26 or something like that and see what happens. Because we still don't know the future of Derek Carr in Oakland. What John Gruden's going to do there. So, but I can see him. The thing is that the teams at the top of the draft don't need a quarterback. I mean, the Cardinals, although Cliff Kingsbury has gone on record as saying he would take him, they've got Josh Rosen. So they've kind of got their guy. A lot of these other teams have their guys. So we'll see. I'm interested to see where Haskins goes. And I'm interested to see who trades up to get him. The Giants need to draft their next quarterback. I mean, Eli can't play forever. The Patriots have to draft a quarterback. They have to. Tom Brady, the guy isn't going to be, he's not going to play quarterback at 45 years old. Age ends up taking its toll, and the Patriots have to prepare for that, even if it's at the expense of Tom Brady's ego. So we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting this year because it is the Duke kid's impressive. By the way, did you see him in the bowl game?
Yeah, I like him as an NFL prospect.
Yeah, he's coached by David Cutcliffe, who was Peyton Manning's offensive coach in college at Tennessee, and
really mentor throughout
like
the NFL too.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he just looks like Peyton. So that kid has, but he's not going to be able to come right in. I don't think he's going to be able to. The 5 guys, all 5 first-round picks this year started in the NFL this year, which is unprecedented. But this was a heck of a quarterback class. I mean, when you think about it, how good this class was this year in the NFL. Nothing near that in the 2019 class. So we'll see. I'm not talking about Kyler Murray as a small quarterback. He's just small for the NFL. I mean, he's a little guy to play in the NFL. Now I know Lindsey, running back for the Broncos, out of Colorado, undrafted. He's made a little bit of a push this year. Had a good season, but that's rare. But he doesn't have the ball every snap. You're looking for your quarterback to have that ball every snap, and I just don't see Kyler Murray running an RPO in the pros. It's too small. But that's just me.
That's kind of the interesting thing about it.
I guess I'm being the get off your lawn guy. I guess I'm being the get off the lawn old guy. But Baker Mayfield, he's a big cat. I mean he's substantial, right? In terms of his physical stature, he's a big guy, and so it's going to take a unique offensive-minded coordinator or head coach to develop an offense around Kyler Murray that you can, number one, take advantage of his skills, and number two, keep him from getting killed on the field. Kyle Shanahan couldn't do it at Washington with RG3. RG3 ended up getting, injured to the point where he couldn't. I mean, he's still.
Well, that's the thing is, RG3's issue is he didn't shy away from contact, nor did he learn how to slide, and that's a big thing. Kyler Murray, he does take on contact unnecessarily sometimes, but he does a good job of getting out of bounds and sliding. He's a baseball player, so he's. Well, we hope clearly can slide. Yeah.
A baseball player, right?
Yeah.
We certainly hope he can slide because he's a baseball player.
I mean, he was the 9th overall pick.
I get that. No, yeah.
So in the first round, as a
in
draft.
baseball,
yeah. So,
and he probably would have gone higher if he wasn't playing football.
May have. See, that's it. So that's the interesting thing about Kyler Murray now. The A's have him signed. So is he going to back off the A's? I mean, he has so much leverage right now entering into the draft because he does. The agent can be like, hey, we need, and I've heard the numbers between 10 to 15 million floated out there to pull him away from baseball or from football. But at the same time, like you said, those amounts are collectively bargained. So those would have to be signing bonuses, Those would have to be other things other than the salary. Right. The salaries are already collectively bargained. He will only get that, and that's his, And again, that won't change until he reaches arbitration. Again, that's between years 3 and 6 in the league, at least 3 years in. So
in the major leagues, the major leagues.
Well, here's the thing: is
he's got to get to the major leagues.
What they'd have to do. So essentially, what they have to do now is they have to get him in, and then they have 4 options on him. Once he gets in, they have 4 options on him with the minor league contract, so they can bring him up and down and up and down. So once they've bringing him up, he doesn't have to stay for a long time. But they have 4 options on him. That's it. It's 4 again.
Right.
And once those run out, I mean, anybody can pick him up, because they've run out of options. Yeah. So if somebody picks him up, and just keep in mind, Russell Wilson actually is on a minor league roster. I think his contract is still owned by the Texas Rangers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but he plays. But Russell Wilson goes to spring training with the Yankees. Okay, he just hangs out with the Yankees in spring training. He's not playing baseball. I saw him interviewed this week on Dan Patrick's show, and he's like I'm a football player. I go play baseball, and he said that it's very difficult to play both sports as a quarterback. Right? Because he said, if I wasn't a quarterback, I could probably do it, but I'm a quarterback, and it's such an important position in the league, and there's so much responsibility heaped on the quarterback, and so it's difficult. I believe, this is what I believe. I believe Kyler Murray is going to choose football because it's going to be more lucrative for him. And I think somebody is going to take him in the I don't know. Anywhere between 10 and 30, 10 and 25, something like that, which means he's going to get $15 million guaranteed. He's going to take the football thing. And the other thing is, he's young enough. If he does wash out in football the first year, let's say that he doesn't work out, barring serious injury, he can still play baseball because they toil in the minor leagues for 2-3 years. So he could still, play baseball in a minor league roster until he's 25 years old and get to the majors. So I think he's going to take football if he's chosen in the first round. Which I think he will be chosen in the first round because somebody's going to take a shot at him, especially one of these teams with multiple draft picks. So I think it's going to happen.
I honestly, the Raiders are a crazy enough organization that it would not at all surprise me that they would take him. However, with who they have as GM and who they have as coach, I don't see them taking him. Because Gruden is very particular about who he has in at the quarterback position, and he's really old school when it comes to that. You know, he needs a guy that can pass it around the yard. He's not a guy that's looking for anything mobile. I mean, his brother's the same way too. So I seriously doubt the Raiders take him. Because it's just not a fit.
Crazy stuff, man. But they've done some crazy stuff, man. I mean, they really have over the years. I mean, who knows?
Now your team, the Redskins.
But they do have Derek Carr. I mean,
I could see the Redskins maybe taking a leap on him at the end of the first round if he's there.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know what I don't have all the draft picks
because Dan Snyder's crazy too.
Pick or what they are.
You know, we need to make a list of like the craziest owners.
Crazy.
Yeah. Him, you got him, you got, Davis, the owner for the Knicks. You know, it just.
Yeah, they're the Hall of Fame of crazy owners, right? I mean, it's like, just, and the Cowboys won their second playoff game in 20 years the other day, and it's like, oh, Jason Garrett's great, we're going to keep him. Really?
Yeah.
That's what you call success for a franchise that has 5 Super Bowl victories? I mean, come on. I mean, it's,
They have become the crown achievement of mediocrity in Dallas, the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It says
when you have Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher could just keep getting them 8-8 forever because that's what Jeff Fisher is. He's like 8-8. He's like Mr. 8-8. So it's we'll see. Listen. I wish Kyler Murray all the success because I always want people to succeed. It just seems to me to be a bit of a long shot. Even with the evolution of the game today, he was in a perfect world for him. He was at the Big 12, where defense is an afterthought, right, for the most part. And he benefited from that. Oklahoma had a great talent around him. So it was the perfect storm. He had Lincoln Riley, a great offensive mind, who will, I think, will end up in the NFL one day. I don't think he's going to stay in college forever, but he's still young. He's like 34 years old, so he's still young. But I just listen, and I want to be proven wrong in this case, right? I would love to see Kyler Murray come in to the league and prove me 100% wrong. I really would. I'd love it. I just think he's going to have issues because you've got to get the perfect situation for him, the perfect offense for him, the perfect personnel for him. You've got to have a great offensive line for him because he can't get sacked. If he gets sacked 3, 4, 5 times a game, he's done. He's not big enough to withstand the sacks. And the team that would be most likely to take would be Kansas City, but they've got their guy, right? Cleveland, they have their guy. I mean, the teams that I'm thinking about that, the Rams with Sean McVay, a great offensive mind, but they've got their guy. Where does he go? Dallas, great offensive line. They've got their guy. They've got Dak Prescott. They're not drafting Kyler Murray to take over for Dak Prescott. So it's going to be interesting to see, the guy that said he would love him in Arizona now, Cliff Kingsbury. Well, they've got Josh Rosen, but their offensive line's a train wreck. If Rosen got sacked, I think Rosen got sacked 6 times a game. The last 7 or 8 games. I mean, come on. Rosen's
pretty bad.
Rosen's prototypical. Rosen's 6'4", 230, right?
About.
You can't put Kyler Murray in that thing. I mean, anyway. So we'll. I mean, I want to be proven wrong. I've been at this a long time. We've been watching a lot of football over the years, and I'm skeptical about his ability to succeed without being in a system that is totally created for his unique skill set. And that's not the NFL. The NFL is a cookie cutter Me Too league. There's not a lot of innovation going on there. They just do it better. They just do what everybody else does better. And so we'll see. I'd love to see it. It'd be exciting. I mean, ratings would be through the roof if Kyler Murray goes and starts for a team after day one. But even Patrick Mahomes didn't start day one. He sat an entire year behind Alex Smith.
Well, he was in.
That's what you want. You want Kyler Murray to sit for a year.
He was in that the position that afforded him that sort of luxury to sit for a year.
Yeah,
you can't necessarily say that would be the case with Kyler Murray, and at least we know it's not going to be the Browns for the first time in like how long. You just got to sit back and think. Right. The Browns aren't going to reach on a quarterback this year. It's kind of, even years past where they took like Kaiser, they took him high, and then the next year ready to take another guy high, and it's just been like year after year after year. I just saw Cordell Jones. Speaking of guys that left too early. I just saw he got signed today. He's been a free agent a lot of the year, hasn't been playing, so he just got signed to a playoff team today. So good for him. So to LA, the Rams. He's actually a quarterback with the Rams now. So Cordell Jones. But at the end of the day, it's all entertainment, and we'll see which way it goes, because I mean, face it, like I said, when we talked about Tim Tebow, if I was Tim Tebow, or if I was an owner or GM, I'm bringing Tim Tebow in every year to at least to training camp, because I know I'm going to sell a ton of jerseys. I'm going to make some money on him just being there, because there's an entertainment value with him. Whether he gets cut or not or makes a football team it doesn't matter, because we're looking for the entertainment value in it. So,
yep.
So, all right. So we actually our first guest of the evening is. It looks like we got him here, Kevin. If you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I'll take it here. Okay. Yes, our first guest, our guest this evening is Mark Maxwell. He's I think the introduction could take longer than the interview, because he's such an accomplished guy. We've got Mark Maxwell, entertainment attorney out of Nashville, Tennessee. He's a professor at Belmont University's Mike Curb College of Entertainment and Music Business. He's a former record label executive, author with his latest book, or his first book, Networking Kills, Success Through Serving. He is a family-oriented father and church elder, very spiritually minded guy. I really connected with him myself. We have a lot in common. And so I'm going to bring on Mark right now. Mark, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on it. It's funny. As I was reading your book this weekend, I realized we have a lot in common. I'm from Virginia Beach, by the way. I lived about 5 miles from Regent University, which is where you got your law degree. I told my wife, I said, wow, he says he went to law school in Virginia Beach. It had to be Regent. And sure enough, as I got later in the book, I realized that's where you went. We're both authors. Interestingly enough, in my books, I use song lyrics at the beginning of my chapters. I realized you did the same thing a little bit in your book as well. Yeah. My wife is a pastor. we serve two churches together. So we're deeply into our spiritual lives as well. And you're a Springsteen fan. So,
huge fan.
Yes. And now I have not been to 188 concerts. Okay. I've been to 5.
Yeah.
I've been to 5. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't been to, I think you mentioned a guy in your book that had been to like 316 or something ridiculous like that. And I do have friends
crazy.
who call us. It really is. So, well, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on. I love the book.
Thank you.
Let me start off with, okay, so you're an attorney, you're in the entertainment business, and you have a deep spiritual bent or part of your life. How do you reconcile all that? Because, in today's culture, those don't always fit really well. And how do you do that?
Sure. For me, I used to work as a record executive, and I was counseling, young recording artists about what songs they're going to record and what producers they're going to hire to make their records. And now I'm still working with mostly creative people, some churches, some ministries, but definitely a lot of young songwriters, producers, and artists. And I'm counseling them in terms of what sort of agreements they should enter into, what sort of relationships should they bring around them. And so I view my role as a counselor. I counsel creative people. I help them connect with the right business people they should be working with. And it's a high honor because so many creative people over the years have gotten taken advantage of or just made bad deals with folks. And so to come alongside them and really help free them up where they can really focus on their music or their films or their creative work. And I can sort of, partner with them and serve them as an advisor and as a counselor. And so, that's, in some ways, that's sort of a pastoral role. And similarly, as a professor, I step in the classroom really to, inspire and counsel and encourage students, into their entertainment careers. So I really love what I'm doing.
I loved how you ended up being a professor. I love that part of the book. It's like, what? I'm going to what? So, walk me through that a little bit. I mean, somebody just says, hey, you're going to be a professor. How did that happen? What happened there?
Yeah. Well, I was at it was a coffee shop in Nashville, right across the street from Belmont University. And I was meeting with some young men from our church, and we were doing a Bible study and just walked out and just felt like God said, you're supposed to be on that campus. And it was like, doing what? It was such a clear, I felt like a clear assignment from him that I began to investigate and just say, what would that even be? And almost a year to the date later, I found myself standing in front of a classroom of 30 freshman students and thinking, oh my goodness, what have I just done? And, I had a 3-hour class every Thursday night for a semester. And it was a sort of a terrifying moment, but then became such a huge assignment in my life. I'm just finishing my 8th year at Belmont. And there's just something about stepping into the classroom with 30 young adults like that and giving your life to them for 14 weeks, just how it opens up so many opportunities to serve them. And so it's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had, but boy, it's one of the most fulfilling. And I just love that assignment at this point in my life to be able to walk with. And a lot of times the students, I end up, kind of connecting with them, with their families, and walking with them through their whole college education and beyond. And it's just, as a professor, you just, you don't have to be the greatest lecturer, the greatest person in the classroom, but you just care a little bit about students, and they really invite you into their lives in a really deep and meaningful way, which I just love.
So are you a sports fan?
I would say modest. I can't say that, over the years I certainly have been a fan of the Predators the last couple of years here in Nashville. And, I've grown up around a lot of sports. I grew up I grew up in Texas, so you had to be a Dallas Cowboy fan, right? So that was part of in Texas, you're sort of, Texan first, Dallas Cowboy fan second, and maybe Christian third, I think, when you grew up in Texas. You know?
I'm from Nebraska, so it's kind of like that too. So it's Nebraska football first.
What's that?
I'm originally from Nebraska, so our first religion is Nebraska football, and then Christianity after that. So if you were Seventh-day Adventist in Nebraska, not as many people showed up to the church because Saturday was football. At least that 4 months out of the year.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny. I was a huge basketball fan when I was a kid, and I tell you, the last couple of years, just watching the Golden State Warriors and a few other teams, it's really drawn me back into that. I mean, I used to love following Michael Jordan and the Knicks and all those teams in the '90s. The last couple of years, I've really gotten energized back into NBA too, which has been a lot of fun.
Well, the Predators. I was actually in Nashville a couple of years ago. I was driving through on my way home to Virginia, and I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and I stopped in, and it was during the Predators' playoff run that year. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. It was amazing to be in Nashville and going, wait a second, there's Major League Sports here. It's really transformed the city. I mean, it's turned it into something even. I mean, I love Nashville. I love Nashville anyway.
Yeah.
But a question for you. So in your book, you mentioned a lot of people, and I'm just gonna run a couple of names by. I want to get your impression. So John Prine.
Sure.
Yep.
One of the greatest songwriters of all time that a lot of people still don't know. And I teach a course on Bob Dylan at Belmont, a songwriting and music history course on him, and Prine is one of Dylan's favorite songwriters, and so he's he was nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. He's just a really unique folk songwriter who's just, in my mind, a genius, kind of a modern day Mark Twain with words, and big fan of what he does. Yeah. So
I believe you and I are of an age. I was in high school in the late 1970s, high school and college in the 70s. So we're probably of an age where John Prine was kind of a little bit of a renegade, kind of on the fringes of popularity, but he was so creative, right? It was just creative stuff. And so you mentioned Dylan. In the book, Bob Dylan influenced so many artists, including Bruce Springsteen, right? I mean,
sure.
So when you're teaching Bob Dylan, what angle do you take? What is it about Bob Dylan that to you is so influential that you can actually do a whole entire course on his songwriting?
Sure. Well, he has a big history in Nashville. He came here in 1966. His producer sort of suggested that he come down, and the producer felt like there were some major session players here. And so Dylan brought a combination of Al Cooper and Robbie Robertson and a few others, and they sort of got in with the A team of session players in Nashville, and really made what a lot of people think is maybe one of Bob Dylan's best albums, the Blonde on Blonde, the double record that came out then. He also did Nashville Skyline here. So he's got a lot of history with Nashville. And what happened when he came here, it really opened up Nashville in the mid 60s to the pop music world. Because all of a sudden, once Dylan came here and made 3 or 4 albums here, then, Simon and Garfunkel were next, and Neil Young, and so many other groups started thinking, well, maybe Nashville would be a great place. So all of a sudden, Nashville was no longer just a country music place to make records. So there's a real great connection with them here. But really, the course, Belmont has this world-class music business and entertainment program, and a big part of that is they have a songwriting program. So for me, with that Nashville connection and the fact that you're training young songwriters, you got to include the greatest songwriter of all time in the curriculum. And so to talk about not only his writing, but his influence, his cultural influence on the folk music movement of the early 60s to the civil rights movement. His songs were sort of the soundtrack to the civil rights movement. And really, I mean, arguably, probably the most influential people of the 1960s were, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Bob Dylan. And Dylan's the only one still around to talk about it, And so, and he's continued on and has had so many comebacks and has continued to influence so many young artists. Made some of his best records even as recently as the early 2000s. And so he's changed so much and continues to be relevant, and continues to be honored. So it's a natural fit for young songwriters. And what's amazing, everybody complains about where popular music's gone and, are people still writing great songs? And I have to say, I'm so encouraged when I see young 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are passionate about studying the music and the lyric writing of Bob Dylan. It gives me really hope for the future of recorded music and popular music.
I mean, just look at Bruno Mars.
Well, I'm partial to pulling the tracks myself.
Yeah, I was saying, just look at Bruno Mars. He's one of those guys that he wrote music for people in pop music for a while before he was an artist. And he plays umpteen instruments as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Dylan really was he sort of, they say he killed Tin Pan Alley. Before Bob Dylan, most of the singers from the 1950s and the early 60s, they didn't sing their own songs. So Dylan was really the first person. Other people were singing his songs, but then once he started making records, it was sort of he broke that mold. And really opened up the whole singer-songwriter movement of the 60s as well. So much of what he's done and continues to write about is just his influence. And honestly, too, there's the gospel era, the records that came out in the late 70s and the early 80s, and what he did was so groundbreaking with the band that he toured with. And so just from that standpoint, it's the influence of the Bible on his lyrics and also what he did with the gospel era is really an interesting study, and so to sit with students who may not even be inclined towards Christianity or a Jewish faith to be talking about the impact of the Bible on Dylan's writing. It's really fascinating. We get into some great discussions about that.
Now, Mark, and sports, in fact, are entertainment. It's sports entertainment. Every year, I cover the East-West Shrine Game. I go to that event every year. I like it because kind of the similar situation that you feel with these young songwriters in a classroom, it's kind of one of those situations where they're able to get and work with pro talent, training and scouts and coaches for really the first time in their lives in hopes to land their big deal. Now, if you were to talk to these student athletes who are about to become professional sports entertainment people, what would be the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give them? Not sports pertaining, just life, sports entertainment, that side of it. Nothing particular like sports driven, but from the entertainment side, from your experience in life, what are the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, number one, the phrase I use often is, live your life by assignment. I think, so many of us build, whether we're entertainment, sports, or business, whatever we are, we sort of build our dreams based on our own plans and our own purposes. And I'm a strong believer that God has specific assignments for all of us, that He's created us for specific purposes. And they may not always be completely right in line with our initial ideas or what other people say about us. So I think it's important to really live your life in accordance with what God's plan is for you and work very diligently to discover that. And then knowing that His plans and purposes are always going to be greater. They're going to be greater and more effective than anything that we come up with in terms of our own plans. That's something that I really talk to students a lot about, and so I think that would apply to athletes as well. I think the other big one that the whole theme of my book, it's about serving. And I think the secret of success in life is really, it's based around serving others, and that's really what, the great leaders have all taught us. Martin Luther King Jr. said, anybody can be great because anybody can serve, right? That was the message of Christ. The message was, if you want to be great, when James and John said, we want to be at your right and left, we want to be at the greatest positions of honor. He said, if you want to be great, if you want to be successful, it's about serving others. It's about laying down your life for others. Even people like Justin Bieber's manager, who manages Kanye West and Justin Bieber, Scooter Braun, his quote, which I love, he says, don't live for yourself. It's too easy. You will gain nothing from that. Live for others. That's where you will find true riches in life. So I think finding purpose in life is really, it's not about finding yourself. It's about losing yourself. It's not about making yourself visible. It's about making yourself available to others. And I think that's really the greatest key in every area of life, is when you begin to focus your life on others, things come into focus. When you're focused on others, the fear of failure is gone. When you're focused on others, God provides for you and meets your needs when you're giving to others. So I think it's living a life of generosity and sacrifice. That's where purpose, meaning, and provision always flows. So those would be the two. In terms of the third, I think I would probably say, get wisdom. Learn. If you're in music, learn the craft. There's so many shortcuts now. People want to focus more on social media contacts as opposed to putting in the work to become an expert as a musician or an expert as a songwriter. It takes time. It takes wisdom, but it also just takes that hard work. So as an athlete, I think, avoid the shortcuts, go after the hard work. It's hard work and wisdom. And it's a strong work ethic, and it's avoiding the shortcuts, so I think that's probably the third one.
Yeah. I have a few friends that are comedians, and I tell them, still do the improv, still go to, the comedy shops, still do the open mic nights, because even though that you have YouTube and you can get 2 more people through YouTube, that live interaction with people is going to give you so much more of an authentic reaction to your material than just comments, likes, and angry people on the internet. But that's comedy,
Oh yeah. Social media has become an illusion, and it's sadly for so many young people, they have begun to view it as a way to get rich quickly, and as a way to propel their career forward without the hard work that it really takes. And when you're focused on gaining likes, followers, and views, and not becoming a great athlete or not becoming an established songwriter, you're focused on the wrong thing. And
it's superficial.
So I think it really is. It really is. It's you've got to put the time in. The Beatles became the Beatles because of those thousands of hours they put in playing those all-night shows at the clubs in Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can't. I was telling Kevin about. Sorry to cut you off, but I was telling Kevin about this book I read. It's by Dr. Gordon Neufeld and Dr. Gabor Mate, both Canadian doctors. And it's like a social psychology book. It's called Holding On to Your Children. And it really goes through why each generation is kind of phased and changed differently and have adapted, why, the kids are more detached from the family structure now than they were, when you and Kevin were younger. So, and it's a real interesting take on it and why social media really fills a void in a way, but doesn't fill a void. And spoiler alert, a physical contact is, physical contact, being present in the moment is a big part of it.
Sure.
Well, I think,
and it's giving value to others. I think it's really living our lives. So much of the social media, it's about taking from others. It's about how many of these likes can I get? And so really, if you want to leave a legacy and really make something that lasts, you got to really give value to people. You got to give them something important. It's really important.
Let me ask you this: you mentioned a guy in the book who I didn't know about this guy and how influential he was. You call him the Forrest Gump of music, Al Cooper. Give our listeners a little bit of an insight into him because this guy sounds like a cool cat. I mean, he was like everywhere, right? He was there when everything happened. So give us because you know him. You spent some time with him and he helped you in one of your classes. So tell us about this guy.
Yeah. Al, amazing guy. He basically started out in New York City in the early 1960s and got his first publishing deal at age 14 and began to write songs for people. But he was invited into the studio when Bob Dylan was recording, it's probably his most famous song, Like a Rolling Stone. And the guy that was sitting on the organ switched to piano, and Al kind of jumped over on the organ and just started playing. And the producer's like, "What are you doing? You play guitar." And Al's like, "Well, today I'm playing organ." And so he didn't know how to play, but what he played, Dylan loved, and it was sort of behind the beat and just sort of odd, but it sort of became, sort of the one of the trademarks of that song, Like a Rolling Stone. So Al Cooper, from that moment on, became one of the most in-demand session players and organ players on so many different records with so many different people, and then went on to, discover Leonard Skinner and produced their first couple of albums and, produced and worked with, Jimi Hendrix and Ray Charles and was sort of there at all these different major moments in the rock era. He was at the Monterey Pop Festival, the year that sort of Jimi Hendrix Who made their marks there. He was one of the artists playing there. And so he just was always kind of at the right place at the right time and had really saw the world and saw so many things. And so he came the very first year I taught the Bob Dylan class at Belmont, and he was kind enough to come down from Boston where he lives now and do a kind of a major seminar lecture on his life and his musical career and just all the things he's been involved in. And so, it was a great story that I was able to share, just how sometimes, you find yourself with people that you can't imagine, and what are you going to give them? And what are you going to give them of value? And that was sort of the purpose of the story in my book, is that all of a sudden I am put with Al for a week. And the challenge I think God gave me is, what are you going to give to him? What are you going to leave him with as a new friend in your life? And I think that's important. Oftentimes, God puts us in positions with people that are a lot more accomplished or wiser or famous or whatever. And it doesn't mean that we don't have anything to offer them. There's every time we connect with people, we've got to be willing to say, what can I bring of value to this person's life? And so that was the kind of the reason for that story.
So I'm going to tease the audience, and so they'll go buy the book, because you provided something valuable to him in meeting someone that he wanted to meet very badly and had never met. Right. So I'm not going to let you tell that. I'm going to leave that as a tease for people to go buy the book, because it's an awesome story. It is also the essence of your book. It's the essence of your ministry to a certain extent. And what I really like about it too is that you bring up something that a really good pastor friend of mine, a core to his ministry, is the worst thing you've ever been through is the thing that you can turn around, that God will turn that around for you and make that a positive for other people. And you've been through that, because you were a train wreck as a college student, right? From your book.
I was.
And you've turned that around, and you've taken several college-age students into your home as surrogate children. and you've turned that totally on its head, just as Jesus turned everything on its head. You turned that totally on its head, and you've made that into a ministry, which I think is just, it's miraculous, is it not?
Yeah. And that's the thing about God. The things that we think, the things that we've gone through, that either we've done to ourselves or to others, or that others have done to us, the biggest tragedies and the biggest pains in our life are so often the very things that he wants to end up using us in to serve others, which it's hard to see that, especially if you're in the middle of those difficult things. But yeah, for me to be back on a college campus 30 years later, after, as a student myself, I was a terror. And to be back 30 years later, sober, off drugs, and a strong believer in Christ, to be able to step on a campus 30 years later and say, I want to bring life now instead of death. I'll never forget the very first night I stepped on the campus at Belmont. That was the thing that just shook me. It's like, oh my gosh, here I am being entrusted with the lives of 30 students, where 30 years ago I couldn't be trusted with anyone, and so and I think that's the way, the Bible's filled with those stories, but the world, the world is filled with those stories too. And it's just amazing how he can redeem our broken past. And what I always say to people is, I don't care what's happened to you, you're never disqualified. You're not disqualified. The very things that you think would disqualify you can often become the things that God wants to use most in your life.
Well, that's awesome, Mark. And so the book is Networking Kills, Success Through Serving. I got it on iBook. You can also get it through Amazon.com, Kindle version, print version. Well, Mark, it was great having you on tonight. I hope to talk to you again, because I think this is great. I'm probably going to call you in the next few days and say, hey, let's chat, because this is one of those things that happens. I feel the connection with you. This is awesome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I've been very honored to be part of it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so thank you, man. And hope things go well in Nashville, and hope things go well with the book, and obviously your career's going well as well. So thank you very much. Thanks for having.
Thank you. God bless you guys and your listeners too.
Okay. You too, Mark. Thank you.
Amazing, right?
It's funny how things, but we've had some amazing guests, Matthew. I'm going to try to keep some more, because I hope people listen, because this is amazing stuff that people have been through, and they've turned their lives around. And we didn't get into it very much, but in college, he was a drug addict and alcoholic, and he wrecked a lot of people's lives and turned that around. And now he's something totally different. And I think that's a good message that like you said at the end, you can always turn it around and be better. And that's a great message, I think, for anybody in any walk of life. So sorry that wasn't a truly sports oriented thing, but I thought he was a great guest to have as inspiration and just general inspiration for all of us. So and then we're gonna get back to just trashing coaches and players, and we're gonna turn it all on the other end now. Just to say, oh my gosh, what happened there? But that was great. So I enjoyed talking to him. I hope to talk to him again soon too, as well. So
and that's the thing is, a lot of people stop and say, that's not sports. That's not sports. They're talking a lot about music. The funny thing is, he's not one of them, but a lot of people who are musicians wish that they were athletes, and a lot of people that are athletes wish that they were, entertainers. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of intertwine, looking at the other from outside. They're peering inside at one another, in a lot of different respects. But again, like the question I had for him, and the message I want people to understand and get from it, although the core of it wasn't sports, it was the message coming across there. It's the point of what can you take from it as an athlete, as a coach, as a sports fan, either applying it to sports or your own life. You don't, that's the great thing that we do with this show. We're not bringing on somebody to give a press conference, That's not what we do. So,
right. And he could just as easily be a sports agent or a sports attorney, right? I mean,
yeah.
His message, by the way, isn't all that different from Lee Steinberg's message from 2 years ago. Lee Steinberg came through addiction and rock bottom, and Lee Steinberg is Patrick Mahomes' agent, and Patrick Mahomes would not have been the guy he is today without Lee Steinberg behind him, helping him get to where he is. So the message, whether it's music or acting or publishing or sports, is the same. I mean, in terms of dealing with fame and keeping your nose to the grindstone and perfecting your craft, all of that kind of stuff is the same message. So yes, I think it was outstanding. I came to him through LinkedIn, and it just hit me that we got to get this guy on, and he agreed to it. I got to tell you, to our listeners as well, I can't believe sometimes the people that say yes, right? You just ask and they say yes, and we get these great guests, like, the Mike Careys and the Lee Steinbergs and, the Jay Dell things. You're going, what? So it's great. I think it's a testament to our show as well. They look at the site and they see what we do, and they come on board. I think it's fantastic. So anyway.
I talk to Casey every now and then too, at least twice a basketball season. Oh
yeah.
Yeah, he's. We actually have a friend in common that I found out afterwards. A friend Joey Katada. He's actually been on the show a few times. He was in the front office, and he worked with the Celtics for many years. They're both really good friends with Larry Bird. So, so I it's kind of a friend in common, as well. So I kind of reach out to both of them about basketball here and there. So I picked up, I was actually reading his book the other day, rereading one of the chapters in it. That book should really be a movie. That it felt like reading the book was
the Marvin Barnes. Marvin Barnes. The Mike Carey's book about Marvin. Yes.
It felt almost like a 30 for 30.
Yes. And it's been a long time, so I'm not sure it's as relevant as it was in my day, because when I was in college, Marvin Barnes was the guy. I mean, he was an incredible basketball player. I mean, incredible. And so, that could be a 30-30. You're absolutely correct about that. And but that interview with Mike Carey was outstanding because he was recounting all the, he was a beat reporter for Boston during the Celtics heyday. There's the Birds and the McHales and it's good stuff. So I'm going to keep plugging, getting us good guests, trying to in terms of the interviews, getting the show to another level. I think it's great. So, so this weekend, NFL, we've got the top 4 teams left, which is rare.
The top 4 scoring teams.
We've got left. Kansas. Well, no, we got the top 4 teams. You got the top 2 seeds in each conference playing each other.
Yeah, but also
so
they're the top 4 scoring teams in the NFL as well.
Teams. That's right. That's correct.
Exactly.
That is correct. But they also have good defenses, which they showed this past weekend. So these are You've got the
I
Saints at home
think
against the Rams.
I don't know if you wholeheartedly believe that. I heard you for a couple weeks now. You've been talking about the Kansas City and Rams defense looking like the Big 12 from the greatest game probably most of us have ever watched, at least in recent years. I mean, that was just a tremendous football game between those two teams. It was so fun to watch.
Which turned out to be an anomaly, actually. And of course, two of the touchdowns that the Rams scored against the Chiefs were defensive touchdowns. So that wasn't quite the offensive outpouring that the score would indicate, because I think there were 3 defensive touchdowns in that game. The Chiefs had one too. Since that game, it's almost like the defensive coordinators in the league had a big meeting and went, we got to fix this, because since that game, the offensive scoring has been way down. And so, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend. You've got the first Chiefs-Patriots game was 43-40 Patriots at Foxborough. I'm not sure we're going to see that again this time. The Saints-Rams played, and I don't know what the score of that game was, but that was a high-scoring game as well, because they played this season as well. And so I'm excited. I mean, this past weekend is always, for me, the best weekend of the season in the NFL. The final 8, and it kind of disappointed a little bit because the Chargers weren't competitive against the Patriots, but the other games are pretty good. But I think we've got I feel like the Chargers should be in there, but they couldn't. It just couldn't happen. It just, because of the bracketing and everything else, unfortunately. But I'm looking forward to this weekend.
I thought the Chargers. We talked a little bit about it earlier today. I think they got kind of a raw deal, not only in the seating but in the game too. But I do put quite a bit of blame on Gus Bradley. He didn't change up. He didn't make adjustments. Brady has struggled in games that he's had pressure put on him, and they weren't putting pressure on him. They only had a handful of blitzes the entire game. It's like they played right into his strengths, and it didn't help them at all. I don't know why they didn't make the adjustments. Maybe they didn't see them, or somehow didn't recognize that those are the adjustments that needed to be made. But when they go back in and look at the film and really dissect what they did wrong to fall short, I think they're going to pick up on that. It's so tough for a team to get to that point that you can't guarantee that you're going to get back there again. It's really a phenomenal feat that the Patriots have been here so often. 8 Super Bowls. I mean, that's crazy. It's
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you about the Chargers not putting pressure on Brady, but I'll go back to something. You and I talked about this afternoon in our preparation for the show. I think the Chargers were they're tired. They had to go. Now, I would question. Here's what I would question about the Chargers. They should have stayed on the East Coast. They beat the Ravens. They should have stayed on the East Coast. for 6 days because I think that the travel back and forth and the time zone difference, they were still on Pacific time when they kicked that game off on Sunday at noon. 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. I think they were just time zoned out, and they were a little tired. The defense was a step. Which listen, this is the genius of Belichick. They took the ball first. Almost every NFL team these days defers. They took the ball. They said, "We're going to run it down your throat. We're going to score early. We're going to make you come back on us." And that was a great decision by Belichick because Chargers were on their heels the whole game because the Patriots were right down the field, scored first drive, put them right on their heels, and they could never get back in the ball game. I can't emphasize enough in my lifetime, and listen, I lived through 4 dynasties, okay? I watched the Packers in the 60s. I watched the Steelers in the 70s. I watched the Niners in the 80s. I watched the Cowboys in the early 90s. And now I've watched the Patriots. And it's all about, a lot of it's about the coaching and the strategy and how well that was Lombardi, Knoll, Walsh, Jimmy Johnson, and now Bill Belichick. That's like a coaching, Hall of Fame right there. And what Belichick did by taking the ball first, he said, "We're just going to run this down your throat. We're going to take the lead," and they did. It worked. And the Chargers were never the same. They were on the heels the whole game. Now they did come back and score and all that kind of stuff, but they just couldn't ever recover. And Belichick knew it. It was crazy. And now they go into Kansas City this week. Now, the Patriots aren't the same on the road in the playoffs. Okay, their path to the Super Bowl has always been at home.
Yeah,
and so we'll see this weekend what happens.
1-4 in their last road appearances.
Yeah, and
the last 5.
Well, and the Chiefs aren't great at home, but the Chiefs got over a hurdle this past weekend, winning that game. And by the way, the Colts had won what, 11 of 12 or something like that. I mean, the Chiefs they jumped a big hurdle, winning that game on Saturday, and we'll see Sunday. I like the Chiefs in the game because I tell you, Mahomes is ridiculous. He is ridiculous. He didn't throw a touchdown pass, but he threw some great passes on Saturday, and I like the Chiefs against the Patriots this weekend. I think the Chiefs will do some things. Their pass rush, the back end of their defense is not that good, the secondary, and they don't defend the run very well, but they have a ferocious pass rush, and that's what that won them the game the other day. Their pass rush, and I think they'll put pressure on Brady. I think they'll do what Gus Bradley didn't do, and I think they're going to rush. I think they're going to put pressure on Brady because Gronk isn't great. They have no speed on the outside in wide receiver, and I think they're just going to put a lot of. And the thing that the Chiefs know that they can do is, even if the Patriots score, the Chiefs know they can score with them, right? So if they give up, if they sell out with the pass rush and Brady beats them deep, who cares? Because Mahomes is going to come back down and score again on them. So they'll take that risk, which I think is an awesome risk to take. They should do it, and I think they'll probably be successful. So we'll see. Great game. I can't wait. Can't wait to see it. I mean, you've got Rams, Saints, Chiefs, Patriots. What more could you want?
Yeah, and just
right?
just a little update. Just a little update for Saints fans out there. Sheldon Rankin is out for the year with that Achilles tear, but they did sign today. I saw this on the activity form for today through the NFL emails me every day. Tyron Walker. They signed Tyron Walker. He's played with the Saints before, so he's familiar with it. He's also played for the Bills and the Detroit Lions. So when I hear those teams, although he's kind of moved around, it really says a lot because those are very defensive heavy teams. So to be brought in as a part of those teams, obviously defensive minded head coaches have to have a strong understanding of you. But again, he has a relationship with them there in New Orleans, so he will be coming in to help fill that void in the middle. And again, that's tough to do because Sheldon Rankin, I was just commenting, he's been a beast here towards the end of the season, and you haven't really heard his name too much, but he's just been a beast and been he's probably the best or second best guy on that defense, So it's a lot for them to lose right there in the middle. And the Rams are probably going to test that quite a bit come this weekend.
Yeah, if we break down the two games, we just talked about the Chiefs-Patriots. You got the Saints-Rams. Saints at home, 6-0. Now, they don't have a particularly long playoff history because they really pretty much stunk for a long time. But they are 6-0 in the Superdome in home playoff games. So, the Rams have a lot going against them this week. The Eagles gave them a good shot. They gave the Saints a good shot last week. Jumped out 14-0. Looked like, wow, Saints were in trouble. They clawed their way back and won the game. The Rams, the opposite. They jumped out and the Cowboys had to hang on. So it's be a great game. You can't ask for anything better than this. If you're an NFL football fan, you can't ask for anything better than these two games.
Yeah,
there's so many storylines, so many.
Just kind of breaking
players,
down.
Right? You got you've got
the keys.
You've got that Saints offense with Kamara and the receivers and Drew Brees, and you got the Rams with Todd Gurley and Jared Goff and that innovative offense, and the Rams defense is probably a little bit underrated. This is you got two rematches too, which rarely happens in the NFL. You've got two rematches from the regular season, and so it's just I can't wait. Sunday's going to be fantastic. It's just going to be fantastic, and you could make a case for all four teams, right? To get there. I could argue right now. I could give you, legitimate reasons why each team could win. And that's not always the case.
The Saints they're opening at a -3.5. So the wise guys aren't giving him too much, despite being 6-0. Again, because that Saints offense, outside of Breeze, his Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, those are really his two threats as far as passing goes. He tries to spread it around quite a bit, but we can see he doesn't. He can't get it down the field like he used to. We saw a few balls this past weekend that were underthrown. So that's going to be something that I think the Rams are going to key in on. They're going to try to get there with the pass rush, and I think that they're going to try to kind of load the box up on him a little bit and really try to make him push his arm, because I don't think they're confident he can really get it over the top on them. They don't really have guys that's going to cut the top off the defense anyways. So I think that's one area that they could really press him on. I think at times with the Eagles, it's just that they opened up and they give too much over the middle. See, that's the thing is like when these defenses move into essentially like a cover zero where the middle of the field's wide open. Breeze, Brady, Rivers, guys, these veteran guys pick that apart because the middle of the field is really the saving grace for the quarterback. I don't know why defenses don't do more to, protect the middle of the field, but especially, throughout the first...
those slants. Those slants. Those slants are like a gimme, right? I mean, you watch the Patriots used it to perfection against the Chargers on Sunday. They just used the slant over and over and over and over and over and over again. So the Saints in the first game, the Saints beat the Rams 45-35, and the Patriots beat the Chiefs 43-30. So the two games were almost identical, right, the first time around. So we've got this. The only difference in this round is the Saints are at home again against the Rams, but the Patriots have to travel to Kansas City. So that's the only difference. We could see, but I don't expect 80. Let's see, that was 80. I don't expect 163 total points in these two games. Do you? I just don't. It hasn't been that way in the playoffs, except for the Patriots exploding on the Chargers in the first half last week. But I don't expect those kind of games. I expect like 28-20 or 27-17. That's what I expect. Now, obviously, the Saints and Rams are playing inside, so that's going to probably create some more points, but that being said, the Saints Eagles game was only 34 total points, and those are two pretty good offenses. The game in Kansas City on Sunday night, and we talked about this earlier today, Matthew. I don't understand why they're not playing the Kansas City Patriots game early. Because it's going to be like 8 degrees in Kansas City on Sunday night. It's going to be brutal. And why they don't play that game in the day? But I suspect that CBS and Fox. CBS has they won the coin flip, and they get to put that game in prime time.
Maybe,
right? I mean, I'm suspecting that the networks had some play in this. I'd love to be able to talk to somebody at the network to understand who in their right mind would put a game outdoors in the upper Midwest at night and put a game in New Orleans during the day when it's a domed stadium when weather's not a factor.
It just sounds like the Tuck Rule game all over again. If you remember when the Raiders played against the Patriots.
Yes, exactly.
And, that obscure rule, the Tuck Rule.
I don't understand why.
Was applied.
Well, just like last week. And we talked about this last week. We talked about this earlier today. Why are the Chargers having to play the Saints in the early game on Sunday when there's no reason to have to play it that way, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles and Saints played at noon, 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central all season long. Yet you make the Chargers have to play the early game in Foxborough after having to play at the Ravens the week before. I mean, the West Coast teams today.
They clearly should have just stayed on the West. They should have just stayed on the East Coast. I don't know if they did or not.
They should have, but no, they didn't. They went back and forth. But that being said, the NFL could have put that at the later game. There was no reason. Time zone wise, because there was no West Coast game, and the Saints play all their home games their early home games are at noon Central anyway. The Eagles play at 1 o'clock Eastern, which is the same all season long. Why not just put that and then let the Chargers have a? I mean, listen, it's a competitive disadvantage for West Coast teams these days because it's not just NFL; it's college as well. They get no visibility. You heard that the Pac-12 coaches were complaining that they end up having these 10 o'clock East Coast games on the West Coast. They don't get any visibility even to the playoff committee. So there's an East Coast bias. I mean, look at all the Yankees Red Sox games, right? You never see the Angels or the Giants, the Dodgers, and they're great teams. It's all this East Coast bias because all the people that make all the decisions are in New York, right? They're in New York. They're not in LA. They're in New York. Now Fox has a presence in LA, but the league is in New York. Major League Baseball is in New York, right? So NBA is in New York. So you never see that stuff. So I just feel like the Chargers kind of got a raw deal because they were considered one of the best teams. I mean, and not only that, they had a better record than the Patriots. That game should have been in LA. They just changed the rule. Forget the whole wild card and winning your division, all that kind of crap. Do what the NBA does. You have a better record, right? They throw the whole division thing out the window. Just, the Chargers should have hosted a playoff game. The two teams they played had worse records than them. That's just not right. That's just not right. And the fans suffer. Because wouldn't you wanted to see a Chargers-Chiefs rematch, that 54-51? I mean, good grief. Or whatever that. They played twice.
And it's the crazy thing is
the NFL
is out of these 4 teams that are left, there could be we could be looking at 2 teams that may not really. We could look at the rematch. The Super Bowl could end up being the rematch of the best game that we've seen in a while. Or it could end up being the 2 veteran quarterbacks that are among everybody's list of GOATs, the GOAT, We could be seeing just literally like one of the oldest head coaches in the league in Bill Belichick and one of the youngest head coaches in the league in Sean McVay. So just the way that these games could stack up against one another, I don't think we could really go wrong, but I think it'd probably be safe to say
no, you're right.
Saints and Chiefs would probably be, for ratings-wise, would probably be the worst set of ratings, or the setup the NFL may least want.
Mahomes, I don't know. Mahomes is awfully hot. I mean, listen. So you've got 4 potential matchups. So right, you've got Patriots Rams, which you just talked about, oldest coach against youngest coach, right? Belichick against McVay. You've got Brady against Goff. I mean, you can't go wrong there. You've got bi-coastal. You got both coasts covered, right? That's probably the biggest ratings bonanza they could have is Patriots Rams, right? But you could also have Chiefs Rams, which is the replay of that high scoring affair. So you could trump that up. You can't go wrong there. You could go New Orleans, New England, which is Brees against Brady. if Brees wins, he gets his second Super Bowl and he solidifies his standing as the best, as one of the best of all time, right? And then you've got the possibility of the Chiefs and the Saints, Mahomes against Brees. How you can't go? I mean, because you got the top 4 teams left, the Super Bowl is going to be great. I mean, you got right. You don't have any kind of weird outlier in there. It's like last year, the Patriots Eagles. So it's a great game. I mean, you've got these great games. So, there's no pretender, showing up this year. I mean, you've got. I mean, and the fifth team was the Chargers. So, the top 5 teams made it almost, at the end. So, there was no. I mean, the Texans weren't going anywhere. I mean, they got upset, but they weren't going anywhere. The Cowboys weren't going anywhere. They did about as well as they could do, and so you've got the best teams. It's fantastic. I mean, as an NFL fan, as a football fan, it's fantastic. You can't get better than this. Good grief! Mahomes against Brady and Goff against Brees. I mean, oh my gosh! You got Wade Phillips. A defensive coordinator for the Rams, one of the great defensive minds of all time, against Sean Payton, one of the great offensive minds of all time. This is great stuff. You got Andy Reid against Bill Belichick. Oh my gosh, how great is this? I mean, it's just exciting. I mean, if you're not jazzed about this weekend, you have a pulse. You might as well just put you on life support, because this is great stuff. I mean, this is terrific stuff.
Who would you give?
I just can't wait.
Who would you give right now, just looking at the teams, who would you give the best odds? How would you rank them odds-wise? You don't have to give us the odds, but who would you rank odds-wise has the best odds of winning it this year out of these last 4 teams, knowing what you know right now?
Winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Or getting to the Super Bowl next week?
No, winning it.
Winning it?
Next, yeah.
Winning it. Well, and I hate to say this because I can't stand them, but you got to give the Patriots the best chance because they've been there so many times and they just know how to do it, right? I mean, I'm not talking about talents on the field. I'm not talking about weapons, but I have to go with the Patriots only because they're the only team. Now, the Saints did it 10 years ago. Okay, that's a long time ago. Brees is the only guy left on that team. Brees and Peyton, the only guys left. The coach and the quarterback. Although I guess I could say the same thing about it, but the Patriots won it a couple of years ago. So I've got to give the best odds to the Patriots only because they have all the experience. The Chiefs haven't been there in a generation. The Rams haven't been there since the Greatest Show on Turf, and none of those guys are around anymore. The Saints, it's been 10 years. So just based on experience, I would have to give a slight edge to New England. A slight edge to New England. Talent-wise, I've got to go with the Chiefs, and they're at home. But the Chiefs have never been a great home playoff team. Their win last week was their first home playoff win since Joe Montana in 1993.
That's crazy.
26 years, 25 years. It is crazy. And they've had some really good teams, okay? But that was it. So when I say they got over the hump, they may very well have got if sometimes getting over the hump's a big deal. Look at the Washington Capitals finally beat the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, they're
in the playoffs last year and went on to win the Stanley Cup.
They had some of the most veteran players in the league too, and it's just like, they just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, sometimes overcoming that hurdle. I mean, and Eric Berry, I think Eric Berry's going to be back this weekend for the Chiefs. Listen, they put 40 up on New England at New England.
So it's
this
it could
Chiefs
go
team,
down.
They're looking good, but this Chiefs defensive line can get to Brady, right? I mean that's they got to Andrew Luck, which is what dictated that game.
Yeah, and
last week was,
and the Colts have a pretty good offensive
no
line
one had
as
gotten
well.
to Andrew Luck. Well, the Colts gave up the fewest sacks in the league. Okay, but they got to Andrew Luck, and that dictated that game. And history has said if you get to Brady, you win the game. If you get to Brady, you've got to get to Brady. If you get to Brady, you're going to win the game.
Well,
because Brady's just going to collapse.
So I got the odds here. Bravada's Super Bowl 53 odds. Right now, the Rams are a 13-3 or 13-3 record. They got them at plus 350. The Patriots 11-5. They got them at a plus 333. Kansas City Chiefs 12-4. They got them at a plus 275, and the New Orleans Saints 14-2. They got them at a plus 175. Do those odds kind of? Does any of that throw you?
I get those. No. It's just, okay. You asked who of the 4 teams who would win the Super Bowl, right? I put the Patriots. But if you asked me to rank the teams in terms of, I would go Saints, Chiefs, Rams, Patriots, which is exactly what Vegas has them. That's how I'd rank the teams.
Flip-flop.
Which is exactly what
Patriots,
ranked,
Rams,
right?
Flip-flop.
Right?
No, they have the Rams are 4.
Okay, so they have what? They have Saints, Chiefs, Patriots, Rams.
Yeah.
Is that how they have them?
But the Patriots are plus 333 and the Rams are plus 350, which is almost the same. You know, they're giving about the same odds almost, just one slightly more.
Yeah, but that's still Saints, Chiefs, Patriots, Rams. I mean they're close. But that's how they rank them.
Yeah.
I would say that from a talent and team perspective and home field advantage and all that kind of stuff. But you cannot sleep on the Patriots. They've been to 8 Super Bowls in the last 15 years. I mean, good Lord, you cannot discount the Patriots. Now, most of those times they've had a home field advantage. They don't have it this time. I'm not even sure they've even gone to the Super Bowl. I'm not sure they've won an AFC Championship game on the road. They might have beaten Peyton Manning once on the road, but they tend to win when they're at home. But you just can't because their experience. You saw it last week. I mean, Belichick taking the ball and it's all this kind of stuff they do. I mean, they've got arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time, and arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, all at the same time. How do you beat that? We'll see this week. I actually think the Chiefs are going to win, but but it's not going to be. Nobody's running away with that game.
Now,
I don't think.
As far as the Saints game goes, I'm seeing a lot of people that are moving, not on the money side, but a lot of people are moving, analysts, people within football and football media are moving towards the Rams. They're leaning Rams in that game. I'm thinking because of my synopsis of how do you stop Brady? And that's the big thing. Or how do you stop Breeze? And that's the big thing, But the thing is, he's so good, he's so accurate in that 20-yard range that he can just shred you up. He doesn't have to take the top off the defense and score quick. He can just go down the field, cutting you up with all of his receivers that are not household names.
Well, the Patriots and the Patriots and the Saints have the best home field advantage of any teams in the NFL. You can go back look at the statistics. They have the best home field advantage, right? Well, the Saints are at home. The Patriots are on the road. I mean, the Saints, that home field advantage is enormous for them. They just don't lose in the Superdome. They just don't.
Not in the playoffs, at least.
It's rare. Regular season, even.
You know, the funny thing is, as terrible as they are, the Bucs have always seemed to be their one weakness in the Superdome. The Bucs are usually the team that ends up beating them at home towards the end of the year. It's kind of weird. So,
well, this year they had clinched with two weeks left. So it's hard to. If you look at week 16 or week 17 games when teams already clinched, that's different. But no, the Saints are almost impossible to beat at home. I was listening to an interview today with one of the commentators that was at the game in the Superdome on Sunday. So it was the loudest the loudest game they've ever been to. And Kansas City's really loud too. Kansas City and Seattle are the loudest outdoor stadiums, right?
Yeah.
And that place would be rocking this week for Patriots.
Because they got those stadiums are kind of like that bowl amphitheater kind of feel to it, and it just the sound just stays in and reverberates off the seats and stuff.
Yes, Arrowhead. Yes, Arrowhead and the Seahawks Stadium are similarly designed, right? In terms of and by the way, kudos to the people that built that the Kansas City stadiums, both of them. Those were built in the mid '60s. They were way ahead of their time. Way ahead of their time. They're the only two stadiums. They're the oldest stadiums left. Now, okay, you've got Wrigley and you've got
Fenway
Park. You've got Yankee Stadium, but they've all been totally refurbished since then.
Well, Wrigley has. I don't know if Fenway has
stadiums,
been.
Oh yeah, Fenway has been. It's been they spent a lot of money at Fenway.
Really?
But,
people still tell me that Fenway's a dump. It's historic.
Yeah,
but it's a dump.
Well, it's still old. Yeah, but they'll never. Those are more historic icons. But those Kansas City stadiums were built back in the late '60s, and they're still relevant. I mean, now they did redo the Royal Stadium because that's the closest major league team to me, and I go up there for games, and they've done a great job. But those stadiums are still relevant after 50 some years. It's incredible. But and I was telling my wife the other day, and we were watching the game, that the Kansas City fans are amazing because they haven't been to a Super Bowl since 1970.
Yeah.
They barely sniffed it. They've been to one AFC Championship game since 1970. I mean, and those fans are the most rabid fans in the NFL.
I
mean, oh my gosh! So they're gonna be going crazy on Sunday. They'll be going crazy on Sunday because they're gonna have a chance to do something that most of those fans have never seen. That was Len Dawson leading the the Chiefs against the Minnesota Vikings in it was the 1969 season, the 1970 Super Bowl. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you weren't alive then.
I'll see.
You don't remember that.
I'll see Will Shields this weekend. Hall of Fame Chiefs offensive lineman.
Ah.
I'll see him this weekend.
There you go.
So I'll probably pick his brain a little bit on what's going on in KC. So I wonder if he'll probably go to the game. He'll probably be there. I would imagine.
My brother-in-law and nephews were at the game on Saturday in Kansas City. They had tickets. It was snowy and cold, but they had a great time because Chiefs, of course, won. But we'll see. I'm not, and I am actually going to do predictions. Start my predictions again next year. I took a year off, but if I was going to predict for the games on Sunday, I'm going to go Chiefs Saints in the Super Bowl. So, which I think is
I think the Chiefs.
That's the home teams. That's
Chiefs,
the home teams, of course. But
the Chiefs are the easiest team for me to pick. I'd actually like to see the Saints, see Breeze there again. But I'm afraid it's going to be the Rams. So I'm going to go Chiefs, Rams, Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. And
the battle of young quarterbacks.
These games, and I'm with you, because these games are so close. I mean, these are not. I'm not sure what the lines are. Is it 3.5?
3 and 3.5
for the Saints.
Yeah, they're barely giving them a home edge.
Which means basically they're even games.
Yeah,
because they give them 3 for the home field, right?
Oh, that was 2.
So they're basically calling them even, right? So they're basically calling them even on the field.
Yeah,
right. And they're just giving the home a little bit of a home field advantage. So, yeah, that's
speaking of the Kansas City Royals, I don't know if you can see it on Facebook or not, but I'm actually wearing the Royals, their farm team that's in Omaha, the Storm Chasers. I'm actually wearing an Omaha Storm Chasers t-shirt right now.
Is that the AAA team?
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be the Omaha Royals.
Because the AA team.
Then it was the Golden Spikes, and then it was now it's the Storm Chasers. They keep changing their name.
Because the AA, the Royals AA team is here in Northwest Arkansas. The Northwest Arkansas Naturals. Okay, which I go to a couple of games a year. But that's where I first saw Mike Trout. Buddy of mine called me up one night, 7 years ago, and said, "Hey, we got to go see the Naturals game tonight." I said, "Why do we have to go see the Naturals game tonight?" He goes, "Because they're playing the Arkansas Travelers, and Mike Trout is playing for the Arkansas Travelers." I said, "Who's Mike Trout?" He goes, "After you see this game, you won't be asking me that question anymore." And Mike Trout had a home run. Mike Trout had a home run, a triple, and robbed a guy of an extra base hit by diving for a ball in the gap. And later that season, he was playing for the Angels. So it was like, okay, I know who this guy is. I've seen this guy play, and he's terrific, and he still is terrific. Unfortunately, he plays on where? The West Coast, like we were just talking. And how many people see Mike Trout play? That would be nobody. And so, he's a guy that when you talk about West Coast bias, has been hurt the most because nobody gets to see Mike Trout play baseball. And the guy is the best player of his generation. No, Bryce Harper is the biggest star.
Speaking of that, the Cubs are out on the Bryce Harper sweepstakes. They're out. The Cubs are not. They're out of it now.
Well, but who's in? Who's in? Because I mean, who's in for Bryce Harper? He's a 270 hitter, strikes out a bajillion times, right?
But all the hitting matrix
he's a
say
star.
All the hitting matrix say you go for the home run guy. It doesn't matter how many times he strikes out. It doesn't matter what his batting average is. You're getting those home runs, the 35, 40 home runs every year. That's what you're getting.
I got you, but
that's all it is. But is that something that you do?
Had much success with him.
Is that something that you're going to sign an 8, 9, 10 year, $2 to $300 million deal for? I don't think so. I don't.
No, isn't Boris his agent too?
I don't know. Maybe Boris is lots of people's agent. Right? He's not. Yeah. Boris is not my agent, but he's just about everybody else's.
No, I turned him down. I was like, "Oh, dude, I need somebody better than you." But no.
He's not really a book
Scott
guy.
Boras is his agent. Well, listen, if you're going to sign Harper, you're going to sign him
90 seconds.
Yeah.
Or to you're not signing him for what he does on the field. He's okay, but you're signing him to elevate your franchise. Because he doesn't bring a whole lot to the. I mean, listen, he's a great player. He's a good player. Okay, but you're not signing him. You're not going to give him. You're not going to give him a 6-year, $300 million contract for what he brings on the field because the Nationals haven't even been to the playoffs. I mean, they played the playoffs like one time, right? You're signing Bryce Harper so that he puts butts in the seats and people watch on television. That's why the Phillies were after him, right? Because they need the Yankees don't need Bryce Harper. They've got Stanton, they've got Judd, they don't need Bryce Harper. They're not going there because he's not that good a player. He's not good enough of a player. Or if you sign Bryce Harper, are you going to catch the Red Sox? I don't
10
think so.
seconds.
They don't have a spot for him.
And I understand. So, I just got a text from the same person who was telling me that they said that the Phillies are actually out on Bryce Harper too. So
I actually think that Scott Boras has taken Bryce Harper out of the market. He's asking for too much. Nobody wants to pay that.
Is he Manny Machado's agent too?
Has Manny Machado signed yet?
No, he hasn't.
No.
And the Phillies say they're out on Machado too.
Right, because Machado doesn't bring enough to the table. It's not that he's not a good ball player. It's that what they're asking for is more than what they're worth. They're only worth what people will pay you, right? I mean, that's right. Yeah. You're only worth what people will pay you. And so right now we're looking at Bryce Harper and Manny Machado and going, why haven't they signed? Because they're asking for too much. Nobody's giving Bryce Harper a 10-year deal.
Yeah, and the Phillies, I understand, preferred Machado over Harper.
Because they have a place for him, right? They need an infielder, but they're not going to. Listen. They're not paying. The Dodgers can afford it because the Dodgers have gobs of money. The Dodgers broadcast rights alone afford them, and the Yankees as well, and the Cubs and the Cardinals afford them lots of money to waste, right? The Angels too. I mean, listen, GM's the worst contract in Major League Baseball history was the Angels contract for Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
What was that? 10 years, $400 million, something like that.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
They regretted every minute of it because number one, Pujols was older than he purported to be. Now he's been a good player for them. He's put up some decent numbers, but
yeah,
I mean, they had Pujols, Josh Hamilton, and Mike Trout, and they couldn't even get to the playoffs. So GMs are looking at that going, oh, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that makes the Albert Pujols trade.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, or the acquisition.
Now,
so they're backing off. They're backing off on the Machado and Bryce Harper deal. You know, because I think what Bryce Harper wants a lot of years, and I think that what a lot of the GMs are going is we're not giving you that many years. We'll give you some coin, but we're not going 8 years. We're just not doing it because they're not going to leverage their entire franchise. Now baseball's different because you don't have the cap issues that you have with football. But I would offer Bryce Harper 4 years at $180 million. That's what I'd give him, and I think that's what he's getting offered. But he wants 8 years at $400 million. Not getting it. Listen, if he was going to get it, he'd have already gotten it, right?
Well,
it's been 2 months.
Well, the thing is, like Machado was offered an 8-year deal from the White Sox, but he's not signed it. And
you want to go to the White Sox? They want to play. He wants to go to the White Sox. They can't win. They're not going to win a championship. They're not going to go to the White Sox. Are you kidding me? Machado's like, I'm not going there, man.
But that's the thing is like Harper and Machado are both. They both put themselves. But they both put themselves in that atmosphere of most teams aren't just going to drop coin for somebody to drop coin for somebody. The people that are wanting to drop coin need them there for one reason or another. Either it's butts in the seats or it's the position they play. It's not ultimately because, it's the last piece they need. They'll be more so a saving grace for a different area. And that's the thing is they don't want to go to those teams because those teams are teams that are not going to be contenders for a World Series.
Right.
So.
Right. These guys are chasing rings. Right? I mean, they're chasing rings.
Yep.
And I don't see Machado. I don't see Machado, and I don't see Machado in Chicago. But he wanted to be a Yankee, but he's not going to be a Yankee. Just Brian Cashman, the GM for the Yankees, they've actually got themselves a guy that can actually manage a roster. He's not. This isn't the Steinbrenner days and just throw a bunch of money at people. He's not doing that anymore. I mean, listen. If it wasn't for the fact that the Red Sox were extraordinary last year, the Yankees would have won the World Series. I mean, they were that good. It's just luck, just dumb luck. They didn't win it. Great roster, but the Red Sox were just better.
Sometimes you just are hot.
And so
that's how the Rockies that one year got even to the World Series. They got hot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Red Sox were just a better team last year. But so you're looking at the Yankees. You're trying to say, wait a second. I'm not just going to go out there and, Harper. Now, okay. Harper's a left-handed hitter. He's got the short porch, right field, right. I mean, he can hit tons of home runs. But there's no. Where are they going to put him in the field? That's their problem. That's why they're not going there. You got to play both ways in Major League Baseball. You can't just be at the plate.
In the National League, he does. American League, they could just put him as a DH.
Well, Harper's not. Yeah, but Harper's not going to DH. He's not going to DH.
And do you pay a DH that kind of money?
So
no, not DH money.
No, you're not paying a DH 8 years, $400 million. I mean, they're just not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that here we are on the 15th of January, and Bryce Harper and Manny Machado have not been signed. Would that happen in the NFL? I mean, those guys get snatched up immediately.
Well,
so
Des Bryant,
there's some issues here.
Des Bryant sat.
He's a head case.
The guy can catch footballs.
Des Bryant's at the end of his career, but he's not the prime of his career. I mean, Des. I don't know why Des isn't on a team. If I was the Redskins, I'm a Redskins fan. I'd love to have had Des Bryant. He was better than anybody else they had.
Des Bryant is. He's on the Saints. He's on the roster.
Well, he signed, then he blew out his ACL, didn't
he? Yeah, but he's on the Saints team. He could get a ring. If they win the Super Bowl, Des Bryant is a Super Bowl champion.
They could. Does he really?
Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, if he's on IR. Yeah, absolutely. IR is considered Super Bowl champions. Yes, absolutely. Practice squad, IR, front office. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody gets a ring. Yep. Yeah. Isn't that a fortunate thing?
So you have the Chiefs Rams, and I have the Chiefs Saints. Is that where we are with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So prediction.
That is it. We'll have it up on the board. I'll put up on the board for next week the scores for those two games.
It'll probably be Patriots. Somebody. We'll both lose the AFC side. that pretty much ensures that we should. Our New England listeners should be very happy with that, because it's just pretty much a lock for the Patriots now, right? Because we both picked the Chiefs, so it's a lock. Book your tickets.
We don't often pick.
Go ahead and buy your tickets.
Same teams. Again,
no.
I picked Clemson to win the national title. They should just book their tickets to Atlanta.
Yeah, they should book their tickets, their hotel rooms, because the Patriots. If you're a Patriots fan, just couldn't book it because you're in. Go ahead.
I was strongly considered going to. I could not get credentials for the Super Bowl. I got denied. I put them in every year. I got denied for the game. But there's actually a better than average chance to get it for Media Day, just for the Media Day portion. And I was half tempted to just
do it. Only a 7-hour drive.
Yeah, I was there last year, but
7-hour drive, you can make it up there.
But again, I got the Shrine game this year, and then there's a lot of other things that are going on that are requiring of my time and energy. So, I didn't put it in
like
this
kids
year.
And wives and things like that.
Yeah, well, one wife. I don't know why anybody would practice polygamy. I mean, or have these lives with two different families, the weekend family and the weekday. Like, I don't get what sociopathic man would want to go through that. Like, I don't get that. You know?
It's masochism.
I don't get it.
I agree with you. I mean, one's is challenging enough.
Some
right?
days one is too many. I can say that. I've been married for over a decade. I say some days one is too many. You know, only some days.
Why would you want to subject yourself to more than one?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
It
Makes
makes sense
to me.
You know, guys talk about, I get all these girls.
Think about it.
Well, why would you want, like, you know, Russian roulette? That's what that is. It's bad enough having one wife or woman mad at you, let alone having multiple.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. 2 years ago, I mean, when I was in college, I had 2 dates in one night. Oh my gosh, that was stressful. That was just 2 dates in just one night. Imagine doing that over a course of time. I'd love to call in and go, hey, no, I've managed it for years. I mean, like, really? I mean, it's just like, how to do that? It just makes no sense to me.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But so we got about a little over a half hour left in the show. I wanted to hit. By the way, just so while Kevin swims to shore, Terrence Crawford and Amir Khan have agreed to a deal, to a fight. The fight will be on April the 20th, and it will be either at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas or at Madison Square Garden. They have not locked down the facility yet. I'm working my sources to find out exactly where.
What weight class is that, Matthew?
That's welterweight.
What weight class is that?
It's a 147 pound.
Welterweight?
Yeah, the welterweight division. It should be a very entertaining fight. It'll be one of the first fights in the new deal that ESPN and Top Rank Boxing have put together. It'll be a pay-per-view ESPN event. So ESPN is starting to move towards.
Did one of those fighters agree to go up in weight class, or is that something else I was watching tonight?
Terrence went up in weight class. He just moved up. He was a junior welterweight, lineal. He was undefeated, undisputed, lineal. He had every belt in that weight class. All the top belts in the weight class.
Okay.
And then he moved up. Now he has.
So he agreed. Okay.
He moved up to fight for the WBO welterweight title. Won, knocked Horn out in the 9th round there. Defended it against Benitez, knocked him out in the 11th round, and now he's going to fight Amir Khan. Amir Khan has won, I think, 5 of his last 6 fights. His last fight he lost was actually at 154 pounds at middleweight against Canelo. That was a knockout of the year. I think a lot of people thought Amir Khan died in that match. So if you didn't see that knockout, just look up Canelo, Amir Khan knockout. I mean, the fight wasn't very long to begin with, so you could watch the whole fight. But it just goes to show you, the different weight class, what changes at the top end of a higher weight class. So, it'll be a fun fight because I think Amir Khan, his best actually, he's been a 2-time champion, but it was actually at the junior welterweight level at 140 pounds, where Terrence had all the belts at. He moved up to welterweight and didn't have so much relevant success at the top end of the welterweight division. It's kind of the same thing as Adrian Broner. And Adrian Broner is going to be fighting Manny Pacquiao here soon.
Oh, Lord.
The end of the month,
Pacquiao
actually.
again?
Yep. 40. He just turned 40.
When is Pacquiao going to fight George Foreman? That's what I want to know. Just throwing that out there. Man. Old guys.
The Pacquiao-Broner fight.
Oh, by the way, I still have a year of eligibility left at Virginia Tech in football. I think I'm going to just go walk on next year. That was man, these guys. But you know what? The money's there. I don't blame them. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, if they're going to pay me millions of dollars. Why not? I mean, I'm not critical of the athletes. It just goes to show how lame the market is for boxing now that you get these guys that there's a market there. I mean, and I applaud ESPN and for trying to basically resuscitate boxing. As we've talked on this show, I love boxing, but the judging has turned me off. Some of the recent results have turned me off because, frankly, and you and I have talked about this. If it comes down to judging, I don't count it as a sport. I count it as an exhibition, like figure skating and diving and boxing. If you have to judge it, it's open to so much interpretation. Give me a scoreboard and a clock, and I'm good. But
yeah, I wish
start judging stuff.
See, I don't mind the judging part. It gives an interesting element. I think that there should be more judges. I think it should be 5 judges instead of 3. And I think that there should be actually a live score. So it's not a question, what did this judge score that round? I think it should be live score, out in the open.
Live score. Because it's all of a sudden like, oh, here we are, and it goes to the 12th round, it's over. Oh, gosh, they're 117 to 112. Wait a second. How'd they score round 1? I don't know. I agree with you. I think there should at least be round by round live scoring. If they did round by round live scoring in boxing, I can live with that, right? But this whole crap about all of a sudden the end of the fight and you've got this and listen, I've watched some boxing matches where it's pretty clear who wins, and at the end of the fight they don't win. It's like, what were you watching? And I know James and you and James would say it's about the angles of the judges and the where
Well, that's not James. That's me. That's me.
Coming from, and that's you. Whatever.
That's me.
But so okay. So I agree with you. So okay, have 5 judges, and by the way, let them review the video of the round. Let them watch it, because the TV camera actually is the TV camera has a better view than the judges do. They're sitting down there at ring level, at right.
Yeah.
I think
that they should be. I think they should have a section where the 5 judges are, that is at ring level from the same vantage point of the ring, same side of the ring, and they should have several monitors in front of them as well. So at least they're getting the live feed, not getting the analyst, but they're getting the live feed. Yeah. So this way they can see what is being seen on TV. Maybe they can pick up some other nuances. This way, if a judge prefers to watch it live in front of them, they can do that. Because there's certain things in sports, if you aren't there, you can't tell about the impact or the hit or the speed or how something flows without being there. So this is the one issue. Like when I look at scouting, like you can't effectively just look at videotape to scout somebody. You have to be able to see them in person because film can only show you what's been presented on film. So it can hide some things. Now, in the case of judging, it allows you to see a bit more than what's just from the angle you're looking at, you know? This way, if they're on the far side of the ring in the corner and you can't see the other fighter, you know, is moving out of the way and all you can see is the one fighter's punching and you can't tell really if it's connecting or not, you just have to assume that it is or isn't. You have to guess. And that's the thing is seeing that with different camera angles so they can see on that far side of the ring and have a quality angle to see if those punches are landing or not. I think it would make for better scoring for the fight. Also, it'd be nice if CompuBox stats were also available. Landed punches, thrown punches were available live per round. So we know that they're available, those live statistics, because we hear them at the end of each round. In between each round, if a producer in a TV truck can say, "Hey, listen, you know, such and such landed this many shots that round. It's the most active round he's had," you know. Those are some live stats I'd like to see up. See, these are simple things that are interactive things that people can see. Even if it was just for our television viewing purpose, not even necessarily even just for the judges or for the fighters. I don't mind if you want to hide the score to the fighters for the rounds, fine, hide it. Maybe that's part of the allure. They can't know what it is, right? But make sure the fans can see that live scoring per round. I think that adds something to it. You know, the traditional boxing fans would be like, no, that's not how it works, you know, Say, well, if I was going to do things to adjust it, you know, I would make sure that there was a commissioner of boxing that oversaw all the fights for boxing. Doesn't matter which. And again, you know, there are different sanctioning bodies too. Like each state has their own thing, but there's no one commissioner over all of it. That kind of, you know, there's no one matchmaker over all of it. You know, and I was saying even if you don't want to do a commissioner, if they went and they did a network, a boxing network, I think that would work out better because what they're trying to do with these pay-per-view events, I think that they could take a page out of the book of WWE and have a boxing channel, and then this way they can start branding and selling these fighters more, and you could say either you subscribe and pay $7, $8 a month for boxing and you see all the boxing, pay-per-view or otherwise, or you just buy the pay-per-view events and see some fights that we simulcast on ESPN or whatever. So that's the thing, is it doesn't matter who fights, they would all be on that channel for $7, $8 a month. See, that's the thing, is like I would be more apt to pay $7 or $8 a month than $50, $75, $80 a fight. Just if I was talking from a fan's perspective.
Yeah. From my perspective, and I love boxing, but I think they just need to re-govern the sport, right? I mean, that's
my. You need to get creative with it.
Is they need to re-govern the sport, and because you got Major League Baseball, you have the NFL, you have hockey, you got NBA. Just to put and the thing the nice thing one of the reasons that UFC's really MMA's really come up is what they've done with UFC. I mean, you've got a governing body, right? See how popular that is. I mean, I'm not an MMA fan, just like I'm not necessarily a big other sports fan, but I'm not an MMA fan. But it's not because I don't respect the governance of the sport. I'm just not a big MMA fan. I don't like the violence. That turns me off. But it's popular. But what's his name? White. What he's done.
Dana White.
Dana White. He's done a great job, right? Because you know what you're getting. You get UFC 171, and you know who's who in the zoo. You know what you're getting. You know who's the champion. Boxing's a mess. It's an organizational mess. I mean, you don't know what you got. Who's who, and what's what fight what, and the judging's terrible. I mean, it's just, and it's unfortunate because I think it's a great sport.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
I don't want to get my brains beaten out that way, but I think it's underappreciated. I think guys like Floyd Mayweather, great athlete. I mean, I'm just saying that he's underappreciated because what he's done is amazing. I mean, he's phenomenal. Doesn't get hit. He's a surgeon in the ring.
Yeah.
But it gets lost. It gets lost with all the noise and all the other crap that goes on with it. And of course, he's his own worst enemy in many, from a public relations perspective, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah, he does. He does kind of go out on that limb to the unpopular area from time to time. But he is favored in this fight, minus 300 to plus 230.
Who is?
Pacquiao.
Who's favored?
Pacquiao's favored.
Pacquiao.
Yeah, Pacquiao's favored. I favor him, and I have him winning this fight, potentially by stoppage. I think Adrian Broner's ceiling, as far as boxing, is at the 140 weight division, and this is a 147 pound fight. He has never been really effective at 147. All three of his fights are losses at 147. So I don't think this is this is a payday for him. So I mean, his last fight in July, he lost a unanimous decision to Mikey Garcia, another 140-pound guy. He's small, and won a majority draw. Came to a majority draw against Jesse Vargas.
God,
in April.
I hate those majority draw things too. Those things tick me off.
That's what I'm saying. If you have 5 judges, to get to a majority draw or a draw is harder. About, what is that? About 30-some% harder to come to a draw with 5 judges versus 3. So, 40%, actually 40% harder. 40%, yeah. So, yeah, it's I think it's going to be entertaining. I know I'll watch it. It's this Saturday. The undercard starts. All that stuff starts at 9 p.m. It's on Showtime pay-per-view. I will park myself Saturday at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Tampa. I don't know which one, or a Wing House. One of the two, probably a Wing House. And I'll live score that fight. That'll be following the East-West Shrine game. So I'll have a busy day Saturday. So, what are you looking forward to this offseason in the NFL? I mean, we've had some pretty unique coaching hires, to say the least.
I think the big things for me are going to be where Flacco and Foles end up, because today the Eagles made it clear that Carson Wentz is their starting quarterback, so that means they're going to deal Foles. They have a number of options with Nick Foles, how they deal with that.
I mean, they could pay him
franchise tag
$20 million.
Yeah, they could franchise tag him and keep him, but I don't know why they would do that, because that's two really expensive quarterbacks on the roster, although it has served them well having both those quarterbacks last
I think
couple
Wentz
years.
only makes like $9 million.
And then, yeah, I know, because he's So we'll see that'll be fascinating to me. What happens with Foles with the Eagles, and then of course where Baltimore deals Flacco. Flacco could go to. I think the most likely spot, and I think a lot. I'm not in any way, shape, or form alone on this assessment. Is probably Jacksonville. Blake Bortles is clearly not the guy there. Flacco has exhibited the fact he's the starting quarterback in the NFL. He's had a lot of success, and Jacksonville doesn't need the quarterback to be the guy, because their defense is pretty good, and I think that the new coach can come in there and actually do something there. So I think that it's where the whole Flacco Foles thing comes out. And of course, if you mention off season, then you include the draft.
Let me ask you this:
I think it's who takes a chance on Kyler Murray. What happens in New York? Are they finally ready to draft the successor to Eli Manning? That's going to be a big story, because it's about time.
Let me ask you this: with Tampa Bay,
Pittsburgh.
With Tampa Bay, do you think Jameis Winston, if you're the Buccaneers, would you get rid of Jameis Winston?
Apparently, Bruce Arians is not going to get rid of Jameis Winston.
That's what he said.
That's
what he said. However,
again,
he did comment in an interview that, in short, he doesn't really think Jameis Winston's the sharpest tool in the shed either. So, but I'm asking you, would you get rid of Jameis Winston?
No, I would.
Okay. What's the
Arians,
difference?
I'd give him another year with me.
What's the difference between Blake Bortles and Jameis Winston? Because they had the same deficiencies, they had the same issues with turnovers and fumbles. They drafted around the same amount of time. They've had enough time in the league to develop. They've had okay seasons, both of them. Some, obviously outlier okay seasons. I mean, really, what's the difference? It's essentially the same thing.
The difference is
one has more off the field problems than the other.
For me is, well, let me finish. The difference for me is that the upside for Jameis Winston's way higher than the upside for Blake Bortles. And if I'm a new head coach,
based on what?
And I've got some wiggle room, it's just athletic ability.
Blake Bortles is a better athlete than Jameis Winston.
Jameis
Winston is not a very athletic guy. I mean, he stumbly gets out of stuff by a hope and a prayer, but he's truly not very athletic.
You asked me what I would do. I would. If I'm a new head coach, I'm Bruce Arians, and Arians doesn't care if he gets fired again or not. He's 66 years old. If he gets fired again, he's just going to take his contract money and go buy a boat and sit on the beach. I would listen. It's such a crapshoot. At least you know what you got with. At least you know what you have with Jameis Winston. If you go out and draft somebody, you don't know what you have.
But that's the thing. That's why they. That's why they extended Blake Bortles' contract.
I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying. Well, you're right. They're similar in terms of that. I mean, but I'd rather have Winston than Bortles. I don't think Bortles is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I think Jameis Winston is. That's just my opinion. And so if I'm Jacksonville and I'm Tom Coughlin, who still is head of football operations, I'd try to get Joe Flacco because if I'm Tom Coughlin, I've had a Joe Flacco. I had a Joe Flacco take me to 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning. Joe Flacco was Eli Manning. It's the same kind of guy. And so I'm going to try to get that kind of guy because I know what I got. If I'm Bruce Arians, I'm going to see if I can coach Jameis Winston up for a year, and if I don't, I'll just draft another quarterback and we'll go from there. I also think that's probably the thinking is there, because if Bruce Arians can't coach Jameis Winston up, then nobody can. Bruce Arians, by the way, I've been familiar with Bruce Arians. He was an assistant coach at Virginia Tech when I was at school at Virginia Tech. That's how long he's been around. Okay. And so, he's been around the block and we'll see. Now you're closer to the situation because you're a Tampa fan. You're a Tampa person. And so, the fan base is probably saying, get rid of Jameis Winston, bring somebody else in. Who can you bring in?
No, they're not really. Most people are pretty set that Jameis, if he can not do stupid shit. So that's the thing is like Kevin Hart gave him great advice when he was at Florida State. Stop doing dumb shit. Like that was his advice. That was literally Kevin Hart's advice to him. Stop doing dumb shit. And if he can stop doing dumb shit,
he's been doing dumb shit.
So it's not even like the alleged sexual assault. It's that after he gets partway kind of the news that he's somewhat in the clear of that, he gets up on he goes in and he shoplifts crab legs. And then it's not just that he also then gets on a picnic table in the open and says, fuck her in the pussy. I really don't. Again, this is all within that last year of him being 2 years of him at Florida, like his time at Florida State. That capped his time off at Florida State. And then he gets in trouble off the field with the Uber driver. Now I published a report that there were some allegations that there might have been betting or something going on football games, that a teammate of his from high school that had been wired some money from Western Union. There were some allegations and stuff there. Nothing that went anywhere. But again, it's more stuff that's just kind of attached to him and dragging him down. In the off season, he just seems to unravel. Like when he's off the field, and he's not practicing, he's just, you know. And the thing is, the crazy thing about him, if he just fails out now, he's what, like 24 years old? He can still go be a closer in Major League Baseball. That's how talented he is with his pitching. You know? He could still go play baseball. He cannot because the Buccaneers have a clause in his contract that says he cannot play baseball while he's a football player. So.
Well, I think he has 1 year left, one season left to resurrect his career. And he's got a coach that, if the coach buys into him and Jameis decides that he can actually do it, because I don't think Tampa's that bad a team. I mean, they've got some holes. All teams have deficiencies, but I don't think that Tampa's that far away from being, now they're in a tough division. It was a down year for the division, but we'll have to see. I just think that Arians give him a year, and listen, if Jameis Winston screws up again, then it's on him. But I think he's talented enough to be an NFL quarterback. I mean, here's my question: who else are you going to get? Because that's always the question. And it's like, oh well, it's like these college football teams that get rid of their coaches after 2 or 3 years. Well, who else are you going to get? I mean, Arkansas got rid of Brett Bielema. The guy they bring in goes 2-10. I mean, it's like, oh, nice job there.
See, that's always
the guy that went 5-7.
The issue with these standards,
you bring in the guy,
like who, you fans and people want to have standards of always contending, and the teams that look at the teams that for the most part have contended and won. And a lot of those teams aren't somebody that changes their head coach and front office very often, or their president and coach. Maybe the staff around that coach changes. But for the most part, those teams that are there each and every year, it's the same head coach year in and year out. Like the Steelers. Mike Tomlin. He's just there. He said, I put up with you until I can replace you. They've had three coaches in 50 years. So and Bill Belichick, look at him. Steelers. I mean, his assistants get hired away and then come back and work for him again. Like, that's the thing. It's like that's the crazy thing. He's the constant. Even when Brady gets hurt or Brady's suspended, they still win. Like the team doesn't change. See, that's what people argue. Is it Brady? Is it Belichick?
Enough,
obviously Brady helps.
They went 11 and the year Brady was out. Remember that year Brady was out?
Yeah.
They went 11-5, but didn't make the playoffs that year. Remember that? That was one of those weird years when everybody was really. I mean, the top teams were always. I mean, they went 11-5, but didn't make the playoffs. But yes, I totally agree with you. We're in agreement. We're not in agreement very often, but we are. I mean, you're right. I mean, stability. I mean, okay. Now, the flip side of that is the Cincinnati Bengals, who stayed with Marvin Lewis for 15 years and didn't do squat. I mean, right? I mean, like, what were you thinking? But you look into the college programs where they'll stay with a coach for an extra year and they end up doing really well. I mean, and so I'm all for. Listen, the NFL has a problem this year. We'll bring it up tonight for the next couple of minutes. 5 of the 7 head coaches that were fired were African American. None of the coaches hired have been African American. They've got a problem. they've got a de facto discrimination issue within the NFL that is blatant, and it's got to be addressed. I mean, the guy for the Cardinals, they fired him after one season. And then they go out and they bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who was fired from a college, and bring him in as the head football coach.
Here's the thing is, let me defend.
Are you kidding me?
Let me defend Cliff Kingsbury really quick. Clearly, Texas Tech, you can win at. Hold on.
You've got to defend the Arizona Cardinals organization.
Oh, I will. I'll get around. I'll get around.
Arizona Cardinals.
I think it's bullshit that they fired the head coach after 11 months. I can't defend that. But Cliff Kingsbury, as far as his situation, why would somebody win? Again, it's harder to get fired at your alma mater. But I just think people listening
I'm not,
understand what changed with the Big 12 when Texas A&M joined the SEC, when Missouri joined the SEC. Texas A&M alone became a destination overnight by joining the SEC. That changed the landscape of recruiting tremendously in the state of Texas. It took people away from Texas A&M, TCU, Texas, Houston. It took the air out of the room.
Listen, I'm not. Cliff Kingsbury was a fine coach at Texas Tech. He's a great offensive mind, all that stuff. My point was that you had 5 African-American coaches fired. One of them, Vance Joseph at Denver after 2 seasons, Steve Wilkes in Arizona after 1 season, right? Todd Bowles after 2 seasons at the Jets. They got no shot. I mean, these are front offices that don't do their jobs and they fire the coach, right? I mean a coach can't. The coach doesn't get to put the team on the field. It's the front office stuff. They fire the guy. I mean, this is not good. And none of the coaches being hired now. Presumably, the 2 coaching hires left, which are Miami. Who's left? Miami and somebody else. There's two coaching vacancies, and I think they're both going to go to minority candidates. Okay, so you lose 5, you get 2 back. In a league where 60% of the players are African American, it's not acceptable. It's a bad optic for the league. I'm just saying it's a bad optic. Roger Goodell has to answer to this. What happened to the Rooney Rule? What happened to the Rooney Rule? They're totally disregarding a policy within the league, and I think it's a bad optic for the NFL. I just think it is. Now, is Cliff Kingsbury qualified to be an NFL coach? Possibly so. Apparently so. But ahead of other candidates? A 39-year-old who spent no time in the NFL? Okay, he had a cup of coffee in New England as a quarterback. Okay. Above coordinators who have spent their entire careers in the NFL? Come on. There's a blatant good old boy network within the NFL that's formed a glass ceiling for minority candidates, and it's not a good optic for the NFL in this day and age.
It just isn't. One thing today, and again, I don't deny, and I think that there isn't enough opportunity for minority candidates. I agree with that. But one of the issues that there is in the NFL is where are the young African American or minority offensive coordinators in the league? Because those are the guys that get the opportunities. Most of those guys are defensive coordinators, and it's defense. Look at the guys that have gotten jobs. They've been more defensive oriented. You can go all the way back to Dennis Green.
Eric Bieniemy, though.
I mean,
what about Eric Bieniemy, for most offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think he's tremendous. I thought he would have been a great fit in Green Bay. But again,
and
he might end up in Miami.
He still may be.
There's
two jobs open.
But understand that
what's still open? Is Miami still open? And what's the other job? Is there another job? Is Miami the only one still open?
Miami is it.
That's it. Okay, because Cincinnati hired, right? They hired.
Yeah.
And Denver hired. Okay.
Oh, by the way, Greg Williams is going to be couple reports real quick. Greg Williams is likely to be the next defensive coordinator of the New York Jets. And I have a source that tells me that Jalen Hurts, graduate transfer from Alabama, is likely to pick Miami.
That's a good spot. Manny Diaz could use him for a year. Head coach at Miami, who, by the way, he shafted Temple. I mean, guy commits to Temple and then backs out. Listen, we talk about all these restrictions on the athletes, and we poke holes at what these guys do, but these coaches are in a whole different realm. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury takes a job as offensive coordinator at USC and then backs out and takes a job as a head coach at Arizona. Now, I don't blame him for taking head coach in NFL.
I got insight on that one. He took the position, but then was told that he had some he turned down a lot of offensive coordinator jobs and had another head coaching jobs, even for Power 5 jobs, to take the SC position. But the SC within that program I heard from what I told, it's a mess. It's a mess. And he had a couple jobs that he wanted to interview for the NFL. And SC blocked him. They blocked him. They would not allow him to interview. So he had to resign.
Why would you? He signed a contract. I wouldn't have let him interview for anything.
Well, that's the thing is the NFL cannot block colleges from interviewing any of their staff. They can block from other NFL teams, but the NFL can't block colleges from interviewing them. But the other way around can happen. Colleges can block coaches from interviewing for the NFL. And that's just the thing is they forced him.
You're under contract.
Well,
you signed a contract.
I know, but again,
what's the contract worth, Matthew?
Again,
he signed a contract.
I understand.
That contractually obligates him to be an employee of that university.
Yeah. Until something else comes up. It's Chris Rock. He used to say that a man is about as loyal as his options. I'm not me. That's not me, but I'm just saying that seems to how a lot of people operate. And obviously he had some other options and they wouldn't allow him to explore it without resigning.
Would you? If you had... If you were an employer, and somebody signed a contract,
I can relate to this because yes, I've been on the employer end where I've brought people in and I've hired them, and then they turn around and took another job. Yeah, I've been there.
No,
sucks.
but they're not. But they're not contract. No, but that's not a contract.
I know what you're saying. It is different. It is different.
That's an employment agreement. This is a contract.
Different. But that's the thing is the contract. That's the thing is there's buyouts in contracts, and he had a very low buyout.
There are. Well, that's USC's mistake, but because because in a contractual situation with these coaches.
And by the way, still with that deal, they
them,
came out on top because he helped them with recruiting for 35 days. He did help them.
Probably so. Probably so. But hear me out. Hear me out here. The difference between an employment situation is in employment at will states, which is most of the states in the country. If somebody came to work for you, right, you could fire them for any reason, and they can leave for any reason. That's a fair trade. But in a contractual situation, when you sign a contract that obligates the employer to pay you, even if they fire you. So it's a contract. You're supposed to stay for the duration, and if the employer decides to let you go, you still get paid. So, this whole thing of these people, I feel like the NCAA or somebody should make both sides honor these contracts. A contract is a contract. In NCAA football, a contract is not a contract. It's a misnomer. There is no contract because they both break them all the time. Institutions fire coaches. The coaches leave to go somewhere else. It's a travesty. And you know who suffers? You know who suffers in all this? It's the student athlete. So I recruit you. Hey, come on here. I'm going to be your offensive coordinator for the next time. I've told your parents I'm going to take care of you. I've told your parents I'm going to be responsible for you, and then I leave. No wonder these kids. Wonder these kids in college and these student athletes are like, the system's screwed up, because it is. There's no trust. But if the student athlete wants to transfer, we hold him out for a year. That's not a fair playing field.
Unless he goes to the West Coast.
They get abandoned all the way across the board. But they have to pay a penalty if they want to exercise the same personal freedom. It's not fair. It's just not. So.
Yeah. I think there needs to be some reform in college football as far as the transferring, and especially when the deadlines are. It can't be just when does school enroll, because enrollment dates change so much. You have to do it across the board. I know in college baseball that used to be a problem, so they have to have a date that you can actually start playing baseball, because
thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Obviously, teams in the South, in Florida, have a distinct advantage of being able to play year round, whereas teams in the rest of the country, for the most part, can't really do those same things. So, but that will end tonight's show. Thank you all for tuning in over on Blog Talk, especially those of you who downloaded the free Spreaker app and listened to us over on Spreaker and followed the show on Spreaker. If you haven't, go do that now. It's real simple. It's just Spreaker. Just go and download it. The app is a little gold star. Get your gold star for the day by getting that Spreaker app. Find us. Find the Cold Hard Truth on Sports Radio Show, and follow us over on Spreaker. Share it with your friends as well. Thank all of you over on Facebook Live that like, share, and tune into the show each and every week over there as well. It's been real. I'm out.